When I did the Kashmir song, it was my ode to Yash Chopra because I'm obsessed with Yash Chopra. When I did Dhindhora, it's my ode to Sanjay Leela.
That's what you told them?
Yeah, I said I want it to look like a Sanjay Bhansali. I'm not going to shy away and lie that these are not my inspirations. Of course they are. It made me very happy. I read every line of every review. When I got a call from Mr. Rakesh Roshan,
yes,
and a call from Anurag Kashyap, most touching call I got last night itself was from Vidya, as Vidya Balan. She said, Karan, don't think this is my last call to you. I wouldn't be calling you again because I'm going again. Those are that feedback, that love, those moments, that messages. Those are what I think all filmmakers live for. Right. If you ask me to cast this film all over again, that's the cast I would go for in any possible time of life. I narrated the film to Ranveer. He's like, what a guy Rocky is. I think that's how he combined it. And Alia is just, both of them were just amazing as Rocky and Rani.
Another scene that everybody's talking about is the Shabana ji and Dharamji's kiss.
Two of them, senior, illustrious, legendary actors, are complete professionals, and they never even questioned the moment. When I told them, there was no question. It was, yes, it's required, we'll do it.
Dola Re Dola is the moment of the film.
With full respect to Madhuri ma'am and Aishwarya and Bhansali, it was a homage.
You want them to watch and give you some feedback? You would.
I hope they all do, and I hope that they understand that this was such a homage from our hearts to all three of them. Hi, this is me, Karan Johar, and you're watching this interview on Bollywood Hungama.
Karan Johar, welcome to Bollywood Hungama. I'm going to use two words, relieved and happy. Are these the right words to describe this phase that you're going through?
Yes. I would say that you hit upon the right words. Relieved because I was exceptionally stressed.
Okay.
Happy with just all the love pouring in, Rohit. For a filmmaker, I think all filmmakers just seek that kind of love and acceptance from an audience, from your fraternity. When both come in abundance, it just is a joyous feeling that is very difficult to articulate.
I can imagine. Every time your movie comes, it's a divided house. There are people who loved it. There are people who didn't agree with many things. This time, unanimously, mostly, people are on the same side, right?
Yeah.
You see a lot of that?
Well, I feel like at least the people who have messaged me, have only messaged or called me, reached out to me through platforms, even when I read comments. It's been such a barrage of positivity. And the ones who may not have liked it have not reached out to me as yet. So I have not heard that. But you're absolutely right, because I remember specifically two movies, Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna and Ae Dil Hai Mushkil. Both had very polarized opinions. It went from extreme love to disdain, and for various reasons, there was a moral policing on one, and on the other there was a divided house about the last act of the film. So I've seen that polarization, and I've been through that, that yo-yo feeling. You meet somebody who says, I loved it, meet someone who says, why did you make it? It was like, I've seen that. But in this case, there's been just love, Rohit. I can't explain it. I'm kind of like, oh my God, and I don't think a single film of mine has got this kind of critical acclaim. And all of us filmmakers, honestly, I want to say, the time you don't get the reviews, you say, reviews don't matter. It's just a defense mechanism that all directors, filmmakers, producers, actors, we all say it. Doesn't matter, audience is God and Bhagwan hota hai audience ye. And it's all very well, but inside, everyone seeks that critical validation. When you get it, it made me very happy. I read every line of every review, and I was like, wow, oh, even he liked it, she liked it, even they liked it. I'm like, this is amazing. It's never happened to me. Where a film has got a resounding critical reaction as well, and I'm so heartened by the fact that the aspects of the film that came from within have resonated, and also columns have been written on it, and the subversive messaging. Or it's not that I set out to make a film that has a broad messaging. I wanted it to come through within the narrative of an entertainer. That was very critical, but I feel all the things very strongly. But I felt I didn't want to make a film that was preaching. That was kind of I wanted it to come through very organically,
Right.
which is what I think has been achieved.
And it did, yeah. Columns are always written, but this time, like I said, unanimously everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah, the columns could be negative as well.
Right. It's taken you over 25 years. It's taken you so many films. You work with the biggest stars, talented actors. Finally, you've reached this point where you think you have your finger on the pulse, what everybody accepts.
No. How can you have a finger on the pulse? The pulse is not a scientific phenomena. The pulse is just something that keeps evolving and keeps changing and drastically changing by every year, not even every decade or every 5 years. How can anyone have the pulse? There's no formula to success. Anyone who says that is probably living in a land of delusion. There is no formula. You just do what you can. Of course, some of us who've grown up on the fodder of Hindi cinema and Indian cinema, some things just come naturally in our DNA, you know, because we are big fans of Hindi cinema and Indian cinema. So some things have been imbibed, which we emulate. I'm a huge fan of so many yesteryear geniuses and who have actually colored the palette of Hindi cinema. I am really a student who's actually always imbibing and emulating from them. That's all I can do.
Right.
But if you ask me that, अरे hit picture कैसे बनाते हैं, उसका कोई formula नहीं होता. One thing that you have to have, which sometimes shifts even with me, I'm a human being, is core conviction. When I made this film, I knew that there were sequences and there were feelings that, you know, when I did the Kashmir song, for example, it was my ode to Yash Chopra because I'm obsessed with Yash Chopra. When I did Dhindhora, it's my ode to Sanjay Bhansali. You know, it is my ode because I love his mastery over the way he literally paints celluloid with such beautiful frames. So it was pretty much my brief was I want an SLB set.
That's what you told them?
Yeah, I said I want it to look like a Sanjay Bhansali set, and of course then the team and Amrita gave it their own spin. But it was I'm not going to shy away and lie that these are not my inspirations. Of course they are because it comes out of paying homage, respect to their craft and their vision. But I believed in those situations because I had core conviction that I really believe in this, and I don't know how it will be accepted because in this day and age of high action tentpole event cinema, this is a human drama, interrelationships. That's why I had the anxiety pre-release because I was like, yeah, I don't know what the climate is. Will this film be liked, loved, hated? I don't know. It was like it had built up so much in my own head that at the cast and crew screening, I was having like literally a panic attack. Like I was like, I don't know if this is going to be it. You know, it's like, and the one thing that it made me feel was alive. I felt like decades later, you're still alive as a filmmaker. It still feels like your first film. My hands were trembling, my feet were shaking, and I'm like, this is the best part of it actually. You can call it anxiety, you can call it stress, but I also call it being alive. As a filmmaker, that means you're not taking anything for granted, not even one tiny thing.
Right. That's what creates the magic, maybe. If I take you back to that, the night before the release, what does Karan Johar do? Do you sleep well? Do you sleep around?
Are you crazy? The night before, I was a bona fide mess. I was like at the cast and crew screening. No, not the cast and crew screening. That had happened on Tuesday. Thursday night, we had a screening at YRF. And the review, the critic screening had happened simultaneously. But that's when I started realizing that, oh my God, people are actually liking it, because I started getting messages from members of the media and I've never received certain messages. It's like I got people who were telling me the reaction at the reviewer screening, and I started feeling a little like, oh God, I started feeling good but yet stressed, and then I knew the box office was stressful. That whole night I didn't sleep. I mean, I just maybe half an hour, 1 hour, I just woke up at 8:30 and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go play with my kids because they are like stress busters. But still my head and heart was somewhere else. I was like breathing, and then of course over the weekend, I think finally on Monday morning, which was yesterday morning, I finally took my first regular breath, which is like, okay, now it's not mine anymore. The baby is out there. It's part of the cinema universe. And I can just now pray that it grows from strength to strength, because I feel like love has come my way, the messages, the calls, the wonderful things people are saying.
Yeah, once you show it to your people and your industry and friends, family, doesn't that satisfy you and calm you a little bit?
No. Because no matter what people say, when you show to your own people, there is a bias, right? They love you. They want to love your work. We've done research screenings on this. We showed it to over 500 people before the film release. We made changes as per that. Nitin, who's a genius editor, really we sat on the editing process for over 6 months, kept kind of changing, trying to make it tighter, placing things differently so that it would be, narrative-wise work. We went through a lot of those beats because it was a tough film encompassing many interrelationships and many characters and their individual tracks and then their paybacks and everything had to happen in one film. It was tough, and I have to say, Nitin held my hand through it so strongly. But for that, I have to just say that I had a great team of ADs.
Yeah.
I had a great technical team. Amrita, Manish, Manosh, Mickey, Eka, they just all came together like one strong Nitin, like I mentioned, like one strong unit, and I had the best AD team in the world.
Wow.
I felt like they were like the soldiers, especially Shauna, who's going to be a director now. I don't think I would have managed to kind of reach the finishing line if it wasn't for the passion of other people. And special mention here to Pritam Da, who actually did the background music also, and just worked on it like it was his film.
Wow.
Gave it that extra touch. I feel the film got better because of his background music.
Wow. You are someone who's open to, feedback screening and research you're open to that? Like you are open to taking feedback from absolutely unknown
Of course.
people?
We did complete research screenings through legit platforms, and who gave us when they had bad things to say, good things to say, it's very scary.
Yeah, for example, what would they say if someone is critical about it?
No, there were things that were changed. Like some people felt, the love story in the first half is rushed, so we kind of slowed it down. It was a big thing.
Wow.
And some people said length in the second half, so we shaved off 10 minutes. Some people said the songs are too long, we cut within the songs. We heard a lot. I'm open to feedback from anyone and everyone. I surround myself with no people, not yes people.
That's so important.
Because I feel like you have to make sure that you create an environment where they can come and tell you what's wrong with you.
Wow.
If you sit on a pedestal and if you sit on your own self-appointed throne, you will be isolated and alone and make mistakes. But if you just make sure you're integrated within your own system and you hear people out, more or less you will know what's going to happen to a film because people will come and tell you. So I've always known our failures before, as I have hopefully known the successes.
Wow. And the feedback came from such people of different school, like you said, and Kashyap told you. Who are the other people whose feedback you read and you were like, wow?
There's so many columns and reviewers that I never thought in my life that would like columns on platforms that were very, very intellectual platforms or very respected and revered platforms that I don't think I've ever respected or liked anything I've done. When I got a call from Mr. Rakesh Roshan,
yes,
and a call from Anurag Kashyap, Mr. Rakesh Roshan represents the best mainstream cinema. Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of his work. Yeah. Anurag, I love what he does, and it's completely different. But they both came back to back those calls, and I was like, okay, so this is a wide spectrum. And it's just so, but I have to tell you the most touching call I got last night itself was from Vidya Balan, who went back to see the film. She saw it. She went with Sid the first time, and with second time she took her family. And her voice, the way she expressed her love for the film. So nice. I was practically in tears, hearing her out. And she said, Karan, don't think this is my last call to you. I wouldn't be calling you again because I'm going again. Wow. And I'm like, those are the calls we make. Those are that feedback, that love, those moments, that messages. Those are what I think all filmmakers live for, all artists live for. I'm joyously replying to everyone who's sending me a message.
What a phase. What a lovely phase.
Yeah.
Right. So from the feedback screening, they said it was long. It was longer than the film.
Yes,
you cut 10 minutes.
Yeah, we cut, it was much longer, but we went with them with, say, a 3-hour cut. Which then became 2 hours 48 minutes, but prior to the 3-hour cut, it was 3 hours 10 or 12 minutes.
Wow.
So we've gone through a process. Then they said things, so we had removed things which we added back also because they felt the romance was rushed in the first half, and then we slowed down that by adding a few key moments we had cut off. There was a lot of feedback that we got, that we heard, and I realized that we live in a time where we can't it's all very well to say my instinct, filmmaker's instinct, and you should, but like we're dealing with a very varied audience today.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a lot of competition as well.
Yeah.
We have content coming in from regional cinema, Hollywood cinema, OTT content, and your own movies, and people's regular disinterest in kind of going to cinema hall for post-pandemic times.
Yeah.
When there are so many of these, I would say, missiles that are working against you, you've got to make sure. And for that, I always firmly believe, and I say to everyone, please research your film.
Wow.
Eventually, it is an artistic product, but it's a product nevertheless.
Right. At what point a director says bus feedback? Because every person you show will have some feedback.
Yes.
At what point you're like, okay, this is it?
The point where you have to give up. There's a point that you have to say, the film is no longer mine. It has to be delivered.
Right.
You stop at some, because even in the post-production, in the final mix stage, you'll feel, shit, this is not working, that is not working. Can you cut this? Can you add this? And at one point, you're told by production, who will tap you very slightly on your shoulder and say, we have a film to deliver. Bus. So I don't think a filmmaker can ever say that bus. You have to be pushed against the bus, to say bus.
Wow, what a moment. I can't even imagine. It just gives me goosebumps thinking about the situation that you all are in.
Yeah.
Right. Now this was about the feedback and what people said. Now coming to the film, there's so many things people still want to know. It's a film that will be debated in so many platforms. So first coming to Rocky. What was your first brief to Ranveer? Like what was the first thing you told him?
So the character was written as a Westerly, over the top, heart on sleeve, Gucci on sleeve guy. Like, he was just written like, when I narrated the film to Ranveer, he's like, what a guy Rocky is. Like, he's crazy, he's uninformed, he's all heart, yet he's kind of like, living in his own bubble. And like, so that was my brief for like, this guy's while he's all kinds of crazy, he's also all kinds of heart.
Right.
And I think that's how he combined it, and to his credit, he researched the dialect, the accent, the body language. He worked, he was with me in Delhi for many days. He would sit with like language coaches to get his dialect right. He would work at it all the time, as did Alia with her Bengali, and even her and Alia worked. And Alia is just, both of them were amazing as Rocky and Rani. If you ask me to cast this film all over again, that's the cast I would go for in any possible time of life. She also is just effortless. And I don't remember this Alia that I directed in 2012.
Right.
In 2023, I felt I was directing like a genius artist. I'd never worked with Ranveer, so for me it was a whole process of great discovery. With Alia, I had worked with her, but I have no memory of her being like this. Like, when did she become this great actor? Like, and I'm like, no credit to me. I believe that her real emotional and artistic launch was Highway, and then she hit the highway after that. Like, Student of the Year was definitely no training ground for her, because it was fluffy and lovely and song and dance, but let's be honest, the performance was in Highway. And so I can take no credit for her talent, but I can just say that working with them was an absolute pleasure.
Right. Ranveer's character, Rocky, could have just, that's such a line, it could have been annoying.
Yes.
And in the theater, you'd be like, why is this guy so loud and why is he showing
But that's true of both characters.
Yeah, correct.
Both, because not Rocky could have been OTT and annoying, and she could have been over-opinionated and annoying.
Right.
But it's to their genius that they walk that fine line effortlessly.
How do you make sure that happens as a filmmaker?
You have to just, you have to depend on your own instinct as a filmmaker at that point of time. And you have to just sit on that monitor and just stare and feel that, ye zyada ho gaya kya? It's just something, ask yourself, and then immediately give that feedback. And actors derive a lot from a director. And that way, I love having that interaction with actors. First thing you have to do, Rohit, in my opinion, is when you work with an ensemble, is you have to kind of make the atmosphere relaxed, where you feel that opinions, feedback, suggestions are all welcome.
Right.
And they all have to come in at the right time, of course, but they must be allowed.
Yeah,
because every actor will only want to do his or her best, and they will. So you have to create an atmosphere that allows them to kind of be able to come and tell you if they feel they can add to something or subtract from something. And both Ranveer, Alia, and the entire ensemble of senior actors, illustrious actors, Jayaji, Shabanaji, Dharamji, and of course Tota and Churni and Shruti and Amir and Anjali and Namit Das and Abhinav. I mean, I was blessed with this ensemble, and I have to say full credit to Shanu Sharma. Shanu Sharma has to be mentioned here because she's the rock star of casting.
Wow.
Like the way she has cast this film, it's all her.
Wow.
All her. Like literally the faces that she suggested, the names that she suggested, I was blown away eventually by the cast I had. And I don't think the film would be whatever the extent that it's being liked and loved is thanks to the actors, and the actors came to me from Shanu.
Right. All of them were your first choice? Dharamji, Shabanaji, Jayaji were your first choice for these roles?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And you got all of them?
Absolutely.
Right. A lot of people pointed out that, there was a lot of course correction in this film from the films that you've made in the past. And also, there were a lot of important points like fat shaming, gender equality, cancel culture, someone not speaking English and making fun of them. All this. Was it a checklist that, that we will tick mark and make sure everything is covered?
So, if I did that, the film would not have had any feeling.
Right.
It would have been a checklist. A film can never be a checklist, right? A film has to be an emotion. It has to kind of come from the characters and the journey and the narrative.
Yeah.
None of this was a checklist that I started off with. It evolved into those characters were people that those scenes could come in organically. Okay. When I conceived the fact that Chandan Chatterjee would be a Kathak dancer, eventually that moment that that Ranveer comes around and does that Kathak piece in Dola Re Dola was not thought of initially. Okay. In the course of the writing, these things happen.
Wow.
Similarly, when you talk about fat shaming, that I knew if I had this girl, and that was an arc that I knew of.
Okay.
But whether the scene of cancel culture that was written beautifully, conceptualized by the screenplay writers and written stunningly by Ishita Moitra. And I have to say, I had the spine of the film lies in its screenplay with Shashank Khaitan, Sumit Roy and Ishita Moitra. And it was governed by Somen Mishra, who actually has like such a strong hold on content. So I just felt I had these writers who I felt were a lot more evolved than I was in certain spaces of life. Like I felt they were correcting me when I was slipping, and they were therefore adding to this. So none of this happened by design. A lot of it happened organically by the film. So to answer your question, it was not a checklist.
Okay.
But it was definitely something that we thought would be required when the characters evolved and the narrative evolved.
Right. You said fat shaming was a part of it, which was Golu, and she has such a beautiful scene where like that's not my name. These come from people these come from all around.
I mean, it comes from me. I was an extremely large child, plus size in today's terminology. I was huge, and I was people call you those things. They give you terms, that stick in your head. I was also an effeminate child, so you get called pansy. You was fat, so you get called fatty, motu, ponchi. Like these are words very like, you're color shamed, you're fat shamed. People very loosely say things to you, and those tags remain in your heart that can eventually really scar you through your life. It's not a small thing, but it's so that's why, because that came from my personal experience of being hugely overweight as a child, and I knew what people. You weren't called a name. You were described. You were never called or announced. You were described immediately. You would say, "Hey, fatty, come here. Hey, moda, yahan aaja." I was like, you hear these things. Somebody else is probably just not even realizing it. That's how they looked at life. But today, I feel like today we're living in a world where these things add so much to your collective. It adds so much to your headspace and your mental health that it's important that we address these, or rather talk about. This should be a conversation in a mainstream film.
Right. And also you have changed, and you have changed as well, learning all these things. There was a time when Amitabh Bachchan would be the head of the family. Here, Jaya Bachchan is the head of the family. These are learnings from life?
Because patriarchy can stem from a matriarch also.
Yeah.
You know, it's like patriarchy is a phenomenon.
Yeah.
We attribute it mainly to men.
Yeah.
But there are times where it's actually also come down through, like you showed the graph of Dhan Lakshmi.
Yeah.
She became like that because that's how it was meant to be.
Right.
And she trained her son to be that way. So he imbibed that value, and then that loop could continue with Rocky. But he was compassionate because of his mother. That's the subtext. So casting Jayaji was purely because I felt like the head of the family had to be a woman. It had to be with a required arc. It needed a narrative, how she got there.
Right.
And in the end, there was a big debate about this, Rohit.
Yeah.
Should she come around?
Yeah.
Should she not?
Yeah.
Should she be
That
at the
was
wedding?
my question.
Should she not? And I'm like, I said, you know what? It has to be, she cannot come around. And she says कि मेरा घमंड और मेरी उम्र मुझे मानने नहीं देता कि मैं कभी गलत हो सकती हूँ। बट फिर भी मैं ये शांति का प्रस्ताव आपको भेज रही हूँ, बूंदी की लड्डू की पुश्तैनी विधि, उसके साथ वो मत करना जो मैंने किया है, जुग जुग जियो बेटा. So she kind of, it was a balanced kind of coming around, but it was not entirely. And you showed her alone, which they were saying, "Arey yaar, it's looking very sad that she's alone." But I'm like, life is not easy, and there is payback, and she has obviously her own, you know, karmic situation which had to be dealt with. Now, the film stops there, but who knows, a month later, Rocky Rani could have gone and brought her back in. And, you know, I'm leaving that to interpretation.
Right, nice. You know, there's a scene where, beautiful scene where in the heat of the moment, Rani pushes his father's hand. And that, she's also corrected by everyone, saying, you should have not done that. Her father says that, Rocky says that. You know, so you were showing that everybody here can make mistakes.
So look, that's what you're trying to say, that she says, you know, and I believe in that, कि बुजुर्ग है, बड़े हैं, लेकिन दिल तोड़ने का हक उनको भी नहीं है, you know, and that is true. We put so much emphasis that elders are always right. Sometimes it's our fear, not our love, you know, and I feel that is also communication that's essential, that there are elders and parents can also sometimes, you know, not perhaps understand you entirely and can make insensitive decisions on your behest. But nothing is beyond pure respect.
Right.
You can say something, you can articulate it, but what she did was hugely offensive. You know, she pushed his hand away. That is something that is unacceptable.
And she was
in
made
any
to feel
culture,
that.
in any culture. They are your elders, they are your seniors. That you can't. So when she pushed the hand, she had to be corrected, not only by Ranveer but her own parents. And Ranveer even says, "Ye to tere yahan bhi, you know, sikhaya hoga." You know, because when the first moment of the next scene is that she says, no matter what the provocation, he says, haath nahi uthana chahiye tha. Because that's blasphemous. You don't do that.
Right.
And she was corrected, and that's why towards the end she's apologetic. She apologizes to him, she apologizes to Ranveer.
And even this is a big change in your films. Like, you know, if I compare just K3G and this, that parents were always right. This time this young girl is saying that no, you know, you have to earn the respect. You may be older, but you have to earn the respect. That you see the big change in your own films?
Of course, and life. You know, when you're younger, you're more vulnerable, you know what you know. But you grow older and you realize that respect from not only a parent, in a relationship, in any way, it has to be mutual and it has to be earned. You can't just presume that, oh, you are my elder person and I will be born with respect. It sometimes grows. Respect is something that evolves over a period of time. But we're trained to respect from the very beginning, which is great, you know, which is fine. But sometimes you have to also call out when things are not correct. It could come from, not correct from a child, but also from a parent.
Right. Another favorite scene is Ranveer's confrontation with the family, where he says, "Tum log ne mera mazak nahi udaya. You all also made fun of me." That scene made so many of us cry. Like, you know, the way he's done it. When you're watching that, Karan, behind the monitor, do you see the magic?
Yes. That moment we had multiple cameras, because 2 or 3 cameras, because I felt that he couldn't do it because he had put so much of his heart in that scene that I felt I can't make him do it again and again. And he had really prepped and come, he was ready, silence on set. We rolled and we did 2 takes, I think. Covered all magnification. If you remember, realize it's all static shots because we did it in 2 cameras in 2 different magnifications, and we got it in 2 takes. He just nailed it, the emotion, as did Tota in the scene right before.
Right. Another scene that everybody's talking about is the Shabana ji and Dharamji's kiss. 2 questions. One is, did they agree immediately? And 2 is, were you ever concerned that how will this be taken by the audience?
I have to say, it was always conceived like that.
Okay.
It was a moment that I wanted a certain abandon on that song Abhi Na Jao Chhod Ke,
Right.
and I wanted them to be lost in the time that they were. They wanted them to go back to 1978 where they had met at the Kavi Sammelan.
Right.
And I felt like for them, like time just stops and they forget that where they are, who's around them. And that's why, if you notice, there's no discussion of that moment after that.
Right.
Because if you discuss it, you'll think about it. So I consciously kept no discussion of it. It never. It's not that I had a scene with Jamni in the house. I said, "How could you have kissed him?" Or to Dharamji. There was no justification in that moment. So it was a suspension of belief and creating this subtext in their heads that they've gone back in time. Secondly, the two of them, senior, illustrious, legendary actors, are complete professionals, and they never even questioned the moment. When I told them, there was no question. It was yes, it's required. We'll do it.
Wow. Another question I wanted to ask is that when Shabana later, when her character talks, Shabana Ji's, she says that, my husband used to beat me. Was that a justification that you all added as an afterthought just to justify that why she cheated? And
no. Sometimes you're in an unhappy marriage. It doesn't have to have abuse.
Right. So then why did you add?
But that angle was essential for her to say that the way your father, you thought your father, it was more to tell Rani, who's sitting on this high horse on judgment. She says, you don't know anything. Your grandfather was abusive, but he used to look very polished from the outside, but he was abusive. And that doesn't mean that your father turned out that way. Similarly, no matter how Tijori is, doesn't mean Rocky will be fine.
Right.
And that was not a justification for affair. Sometimes there are loveless marriages and people can step outside the boundary.
Right.
But it's essential in this case because it needed that feeling for Rani to understand about how this woman has kept love out of her life after going through what she did in the marriage. And she says, you have that love and you're shunning it away.
Right, yeah.
So and she wanted to tell you what hardship she went through and sacrifice love for family.
Right.
But she says, you have it right now and you're letting it go. So I needed that emotion to be extreme.
Wow. Dola Re Dola is the moment of the film. Everybody's spoken about it on social media. I see long Facebook and Twitter posts about it. You said this evolved and came by as you all were making the film. How did it come by? People really should know how did this
I just felt
happen.
It was very essential that he comes around because he had hurt the father by laughing at him when he has a Kathak performance. Because he associates Kathak with feminism.
Right.
With feminism. He doesn't understand that mard bhi Kathak kar sakte hain. It's an art form. Men and women both perform to Bharatnatyam and Kathak and Odissi and all forms of cultural dance and art forms. He doesn't know it.
Yeah.
And he's also said that how he loves dancing, but he's scared to dance in front of his family. That's when we thought of that. The combination of the two is his way of apologizing and kind of breaking that masculinity, in a way that he has now imbibed from the Chatterjee house. And then dancing with flamboyance, with Chandan, Tota, and what better song than Dola Re Dola, which is iconic about two masterful women dancing. And of course, with full respect to Madhuri ma'am and Aishwarya and Bhansali, that it was a homage.
Right.
But it was a critical homage for us.
You want them to watch and give you some feedback? You would.
I hope they all do. And I hope that they understand that this was such a homage from our hearts to all three of them.
Right. Talking about Rani's character, she's someone who's today's girl. I know we all know so many. You see them around, that's where you picked up from.
Yes, I have many friends who are Ranis.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been brought up by a lot of very progressive women. My mother, my aunts, my cousins, my friends. My friends are my family. I don't have siblings. I've been brought up by very strong women who have strong opinions. And I'm probably one of the most what do you call it? I'm a feminist. I've always been and I will always be because I've been raised by very strong women. A lot of that raising and a lot of that upbringing is evident in the syntax of the film and the DNA of the film.
Right. How much of Alia is that character?
She's this person. She's Rani without being a news anchor, but she's she's very strong in her beliefs.
Okay.
She's very strong as well. She's very close to Rani as an individual, She would know when to stand for what is right and wrong. She has strong beliefs. She's against the way patriarchy functions. She and her sister Shaheen, as well as Pooja, they've been raised by Soni and Mahesh Bhatt, who are also very progressive and feminist minds. So they are all very similar in their thinking. So she identified with Rani and therefore could portray it with the elan and perfection that she did.
Wow. No, I can totally imagine. Someone asked me that Rani is today's girl. Why is she always in a sari?
Listen, she's also somebody who grew up with her grandmother and mother, who those
house
influences are
everybody-
very strong. If you notice, that's how the women were in the house. And I feel, what is the problem? Why do we associate modernity with a Western garment? Modernity and today's woman. I met so many women who wear saris so beautifully, and they're so beautifully progressive and very much with the times, intelligent, well-read, well-traveled, well-spoken. They wear saris.
Right.
It's just that we associate modernity and progression with Western garments. I love the idea that Rani Chatterjee only wore saris.
only wore saris.
And I felt like it's the most, firstly, there's nothing more beautiful than a sari.
Right.
I feel like women look stunning in saris, and I wish they would wear them more often, even on red carpets. Sometimes I feel like, why are you wearing this gown? It's ill-fitting. It looks bad on you. It's looking like a Me Too of something else. Wear a sari. It's beautiful. It's your culture has given it to you as the biggest gift.
I think
Why
this
can't-
question just comes from, if you see even Alia or anyone, they don't wear saris all the time. They don't.
You don't have to be that person all the time.
Right.
But if you were a person who wore saris all the time, I would really love that.
You would love
I would love knowing that. And I have met so many
have.
women
Right.
who dress in that way. But everyone to each his own. But I'm
Right,
saying,
true, yeah.
while you can appreciate what everyone does on their own, you should also not be able to question a woman who constantly wears an Indian sari.
Fair enough. Absolutely. So many learnings from the film. Obviously, we should learn all that. The joke of the film was Gajni or Sajni, which I was surprised that in the movie hall, it didn't fall properly. I didn't see anyone laughing, and I thought that was the moment of
So
the.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because either the penny drops a little later, because she's saying it with such severity.
Yeah.
She's not saying it flippantly. She's
Right.
saying it such serious. So the penny drops. So if you, there are many people who've told me that people have laughed 2 seconds later, 3 seconds later at that joke.
Right. So, tell me, Karan, who all are a part of this, the humor part? Because some moments were so funny in your entire team. Would you like to?
Entirely the writing team. It has nothing to do with me. It is entirely Shashank Khaitan, Sumit Roy, Ishita Moitra. I attribute the humor, the lines, the language, the dialogue to Ishita, of course, but also to the moments of humor created by Shashank and Sumit. They are the spine. The writers are the soul, spine, and absolutely the spirit of the film.
Wow.
Like, if I had to give credit to anyone, predominantly it would be the writers.
Wow.
Because I feel like they created so we could execute.
Yeah.
They created so we could then add on to.
Yeah.
They created so we could actually visualize what they had in mind.
Right. No, a lot of credit to your writers. They did an incredible job. But then again, they gave you the writing and you made this magical film. Absolutely. Karan, what feedback have you got from the elders? That I really would like to know. At what point do you show the film to your mom and what did she say?
My mom saw it when it was ready, when it was the cut that we were ready with, not when it was in post. And she loved it, got very emotional. She laughed, she cried. She had, and she said, she told me, this is the kind of film you should always make. So I was like, Mom, one has to keep making all kinds of films. She says, no, I don't want you to make sad movies or, don't try and do something that you don't know. Just make movies like this. This makes my heart happy. It will make everybody's heart happy.
How nice. But also then I would like to know, what did she say during Kank and Student of the Year and K3G?
She was silent after Kank. When she walked out of Kank, she didn't say anything. 1 week later, she told me, she says, can you explain why you had to be so extreme into your subject?
Right.
I said, it's my belief. She said, I won't say anything. You're your own person. But when I saw it, I got very scared.
Wow.
She said, that's what she said. She's very honest with me.
She is.
Yeah.
And good, you need everyone to be honest around it. Like you said, you want people to say no as much as they say yes.
My mother will always tell me, she's my conscience as well as she's my biggest critic. She'll tell me. And she doesn't, in the house, I'm treated like you just, you're my son, I'm your mother, you have to listen to what
Right.
She's my Dhanlakshmi. But I say this with a lot of love because she doesn't have those extreme qualities. But I'm still scared of my mother, let me tell you. Even now at age 51, I'm still afraid of my mother.
And did the kids watch it? Do they?
No,
They're too
they
young
haven't
to watch
seen it. I think, maybe when they're 8 or 9,
Right.
they're too young right now.
Right. Karan, now, what a relief to be sitting here after the release and laughing and chatting about it. What do you do next? What do you jump into work or do you go to some fancy place?
Oh, no, I'm actually going to a film festival. I'm going to the Melbourne Film
Right.
Festival. So I'm going from a zone of film to another zone of film.
Right.
I come back and I get back to the writing board and I don't want to keep a gap this time, Rohit. I want to come back. I want to be on the floors next year.
Wow.
And this is a promise I've made to myself, and I'm going to keep this promise. I
We
was
are
like,
very happy.
I am 150% going to be on the sets. Whether I'm acting alone in that movie, I'm going on that set and I'm shooting it.
We are very happy, but you have so many commitments, Karan. You have Coffee with Karan to do, you have festivals to attend. you have all-
Everything. Time management, as you know, is something that I can do.
Okay.
I'm going, no matter what I'm doing the rest of my life, I'm on that set next year.
Right. And will Rocky's character, that could be a spin-off in its own movie, right? Like,
So many people have said that
Yeah.
actually, that Rocky deserves a spin-off,
yeah.
as does the character, as do Rocky and Rani's love
Rani,
story.
right.
Who knows?
yeah, who knows? And you when you say next year you want to be on a set, have you decided? Is it that? Is it something else?
No, so I've been writing a script for the last year. It's been developed and it's nearly there. And hopefully, when I'm back from Melbourne, I'll have a draft that I can look at.
Wow, we are super excited. Karan, big congratulations.
Thank you, Rohit.
Enjoy this
Thank you.
moment, and we are very happy. And
Thank you.
Thank you for making this.
Thank you so much. And a big thank you to everyone at Hungama.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, this is me, Karan Johar, and you're watching this interview on Bollywood Hungama.